I just love that you started with, I'm going to start by making fun of you a little bit. Go ahead, please.
I'm also going to say something about.
We're recording, by the way. I
Are
did
we?
it. I hit it. Yeah.
You did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 without
As soon
letting
as
me
you
see it.
said the words, we're going to start with me making fun of you a little bit, that's when I hit record. Yeah. So go ahead. No, please.
No, it's good to see you, Scott. You know,
It's good to see you, man.
I
What were you going to say? Go ahead. Spill
I
it.
can smell your scent when I put these on.
I don't know what that means. This is another one of those jokes I don't understand.
Silence of the Lambs. I can smell your scent.
Oh, okay. So you're like Hannibal Lecter, which makes sense. You're a tad bit crazy.
You smell like L'air du Temps, but only after you showered, but not today.
Dude, I don't get it, man. I feel like sometimes your jokes are like, who was that stand-up comedian? Dennis Miller, right? So Dennis Miller's stand-up, he would always just take these really obscure references, make stand-ups about them. I feel like that's what you're doing to me, only it's more personal, but still a little bit out there. But I appreciate it.
No, I am a little bit out there, but you look good. I'm glad to see you. How's everything in California? Because you're in Los Angeles. I'm in Ohio.
You're in an undisclosed place in Ohio.
I'm in an undisclosed place in Ohio. Although I consider Los Angeles my second home. I even put that in my bio. The Midwest and Los Angeles.
I know you lived here when you were in your late teens, early 20s.
I moved to California when I was 18.
Okay. So you met Henry Ford, I think, when you were out here, right? He's the one that first taught you to hate the Jews. It was him. You guys had that conversation because I know he was OG. You guys were talking about it was you, him, and Walt Disney, and you guys were talking about Israel starting all the troubles in the world back before it was cool. I remember that.
You know, I love Israel.
There was no Israel back then. Again, even my joke of you being old timeline makes no fucking sense. I just completely dropped the ball.
And I am old, but I saw a 60-year-old man. A video went viral of a 60-year-old Domino's driver who, because they were out of soda, was kind enough to make a stop and buy a 2-liter bottle or a quart bottle of soda for the person he was delivering to. And it all was captured on a Ring camera. And the guy who answered the door was really nice about it. He was like, man, I wish I could tip you more. I'm like, he's like, I don't have any cash. Is there a way I can call the store? And the driver keeps going, no, it's cool, man. And he's looking at this. He goes, this is a really good tip, so don't worry about it. Now, so
that's a wonderful. I thought that was going to go south when you started telling that story. It turns out the guy was a dick and punched him in the face when he entered the door. That's actually wholesome.
It was like I looked at the guy. I'm like, and so this guy is made I say he's made. It went viral. So enough people have tipped him online $50,000, so he's able to retire now.
Oh, that's.
And I know we hack on social media a lot, and the internet and the interwebs and all that, because there's so much bad stuff on it. Yeah. But I have to say that there are a lot of good things that happen on it too, and that's one of them. The other good thing that happened was I looked at that guy and went, "He's 60. God damn, I look good for 60." And if you watch the video, you'll go, God damn, Mark looks good for 60.
You look good for white 60, right? So if you were black people, of course, age better than white people. That's science. That's science. Look it up. Am I wrong?
No,
that's just scientific fact. But for a white dude, you age really well. That's a great point about social media too, because negativity bias just rears its ugly head everywhere, especially in in social media, because not only do we as like the consumers of social media have negativity bias going into it, but the negativity bias compounds, making the negative things grow more than the positive things. So it's just, yeah, it's negativity upon negativity, man. It's just what we pay attention to at every level, and it sucks. But that's a great story. I love it,
No,
man.
it really is. It truly is. Now, we were going to talk about Artemis and the space program, and you know, and I don't know if you did any research or not. I did a little bit of research. I know a little bit about. Well, I'm old enough. I'm actually older than 60. So, do you know what I was doing the night I watched Neil Armstrong walk on the moon? Did I ever tell you that story?
You did not, you pissing your parents off somehow, I imagine. But no, what were you doing?
We had two televisions. One of them was broken. One of the main television in the, and this was back in the day when you had to call a television repairman to come fix your television because the main TV in everybody's house, weighed like 8,000
Yeah.
pounds.
And they
So
cost
it's not,
$20,000, and that's without
you,
inflation.
you couldn't load it up. You couldn't put it in the back seat of a car.
Yeah.
And even if you had a truck, you wouldn't want to get three guys loaded in the back of the truck, and risk having it being rained on or whatever.
Yeah.
So you had like TV repairman, like the Maytag repairman in the commercials.
And also people might not realize TVs were repairable back then. They had common things that went out like tubes. It's a different world now. Young people should understand that. Please go on.
When your TV goes out now, you just go buy a new one. They're throwaways.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a cheap fax machine in the 1990s. It breaks and you throw it away and go get another one. Right. So the TV in the family room was broken. So my parents were out for dinner because I think it was a Friday or a Saturday night. My parents were out for a weekend night out. I went into my mom and dad's bedroom to watch, and of course it was on all three channels, right? And that's the only channels you got. If you were lucky, you got like one UHF channel. Younger people won't understand what UHF and VHF is. Google it.
You could get aluminum foil maybe and put them on your rabbit ears, and maybe you're going to get really lucky and get something. But your parents went out and said, "Fuck watching the moon landing."
My parents were out. It probably, it was probably military related. Probably something that they were expected to be at.
Okay, makes sense. Got it.
And for all I know, they were watching it where they were at, possibly the officers' club. Anyway, I'm in my mom and dad's bedroom and I'm, watching it. I was allowed to stay up late to watch it. My parents were up pretty late. And there was a bottle of nail polish remover on my mom's dresser. And nail polish remover back in those days would get you high as fuck. It did not have that chemical in it now that makes you nauseous. Right?
Okay.
Which they
I didn't know this, but no, please go on.
Nail polish remover would get you high as fuck.
I had no clue. I seriously did not know that. That's amazing.
Like very innocently, and I was like 10 or 11 years old. But no, let's say I would have been 9 or 10. Very innocently just picked up this bottle of nail polish remover, took the cap off and smelled it, and it smelled good. So I took a couple more whiffs because it smelled good, and I took a couple more whiffs because it smelled good. And I was immediately buzzed like a motherfucker. And I went, hey, this feels good. So then I figured out that, the cotton balls that were near the nail polish remover, if I poured some of that and held it under my nose instead of holding it with the cap off, right? So I was a glue sniffer at like age 9.
And your first experience was while Neil Armstrong was walking on the moon.
I was fucking blitzed as fuck while Neil Armstrong was walking on the moon. It was the greatest thing ever. I also spilled nail polish remover, which back then was very corrosive, very caustic, onto my mom's French dresser with a finish on it And so, of course, it ate the finish off and ruined the top of her dresser. So I got in big fucking trouble, not only for getting high on nail polish remover, but also for ruining her dresser.
Was it worth it though? Looking back, would you do it again?
Would I do it again? I don't know. Just for the sake of being able to tell this story now, probably not, because it's kind of embarrassing. But I mean,
it's amazing, dude. That's
I'm not going to do a cover up. It was like full transparency.
They say no one forgot where they were when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. You're proving that true. You're fucked up at 9. So if you ever had a reason to forget, that's a pretty damn good reason. I did look into this stuff. I've always heard that factoid because you want to talk about the technological difference and just how insane it is to think about things like
it's crazy.
Apollo 11 versus Artemis, or even like SpaceX flights. I saw the side by side of Artemis 2 and the latest civilian SpaceX flight where they took the 4 civilians around the planet, and just the cockpits and how much different they looked and how much better the SpaceX one looked. So no matter how you look at it, government, private industry, whatever, all technology now. One of the big factoids that I was always told was there's more computing power in a TI-85 calculator, those graphing calculators from the early 90s, than on the Apollo space program. I looked it up, and the actual the AGC, which is the Apollo guidance computer, that's the actual computer that was in the Apollo spacecraft, is not as powerful. This is actually true, is not as powerful as a Texas Instruments TI-85 calculator. That's actually true.
A modern smartphone is millions of times more powerful than the computing technology used by NASA to land astronauts on the moon. The Apollo guidance computer had 64 kilobytes of memory and operated at 0.043 megahertz, while today's smartphones have gigabytes of RAM and processors that operate thousands and thousands of times faster. The Apollo guidance system in 1969, used for navigation, had only 2 kilobytes of RAM and 38 kilobytes of ROM. It had a read-only. It had read-only memory. It processed at, this blows my mind, 0.043 megahertz. The modern smartphone, a smartphone made in 2020, has 100,000 times more processing power. And with a 4 gigabyte, 512 gigabytes of storage, processes millions of times more memory. Even a standard pocket calculator or USB charger has more computing power than the computer that sent humans to the moon.
And you're talking about a cell phone. I'm recording this on my gaming PC, which is thousands of times more powerful than that. We live in a world of AI data centers, which are how many millions or billions or trillions of times more powerful than my gaming PC. Why old? That's why the future, as scary as it is so fucking crazy and exciting and unpredictable. Everyone that tells you what the future is going to be is wrong. That's the only thing I know, right?
Well, as a perfect example of that, as a perfect example of that, in 1903, on October 9th of 1903, which is just a couple of months before the Wright brothers flew the Wright Flyer, the New York Times...
Can we just set, before you say that, we need to set this straight. We need to set this straight. Ohio in Dayton is the birthplace of aviation, not Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. They went there because it was fucking windy. That's it. The Wright brothers are from Dayton. Dayton is the birthplace of aviation. Please continue.
On October 9th, New York Times published a piece called Flying Machines Which Do Not Fly, which predicted that flying machines would take 1 to 10 million years to develop, suggesting that they were practically impossible. 69 days later, on December 17th, the Wright brothers achieved the first scheduled powered flight. And this is
the New York Times.
the New
Flying
York
machines
Times.
which do not fly. The same New York Times that called it called NATO the North American Treaty Organization the other day.
The North American Treaty Organization.
When you sent me that, I thought it was AI. I'm like, Mark's buying into AI shit. This has to be what this is. Nope, that's really what happened. Was that a front page article too? I'm not trying to get sidetracked, but that was just so wild.
I mean, I think it was on A11, but it doesn't really matter. It's like the New York Times it's like, how did that get, like, we're constantly reminded about how these institutional, these legacy media outlets are staffed with layers and layers of fact checkers. How that got through an editor, how that got by editors at the New York fucking Times, the most heralded newspaper in the world.
I would want to be generous to them and kind, except for the fact that they've proven themselves unworthy of that so many times. That's why we need them. That's why we need legacy institutions, right? Because otherwise lies and mistakes are just going to run rampant, which they already do all the time. Yellow journalism's coming back. I did look up some things about this Artemis 2 and what it's leading to. NASA and their plans for the moon and the moon base is insane. I watched a video of somebody just collaborating all this and giving their 2 cents on it. They made a great point. So NASA, who's the guy with the ears? The NASA administrator, huge fucking ears. I can't remember.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So he's like the mastermind behind this. By all, he seems to be fucking brilliant. But his plans, he admitted them being almost impossible. And the person who made this video was just speculating. This is almost like Kennedy shit. This is, we're going to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. This is almost like the space race. Like, oh, you know what? Let's just forget all that. Let's try hard shit and do it. Let's change everything. Let's change the whole fucking paradigm of American governments and this could be a moment of true, like, of that space race energy again. Of, you know what? Why don't we just stop fucking being pussies and whining and bitching, and let's have the government try to do things hard. Let's let the fucking NASA do what it used to do. Let's let astronauts and fucking Corvettes. And you know what? Fuck it. We're going to try. And if we fail, who fucking cares, dude? We're going to keep going, and we're going to make a fucking base on the moon. And we ain't leaving.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all the great explorers of mankind's great explorers, right? Somebody made some great points about the great explorers of the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th centuries. And, a lot of, because everybody wants to do retroactive moralism, Columbus was a bad guy, Cortez was bad. These were all, all they did was invade, and they were illegal aliens who went to other countries and committed genocide and rape.
Everybody did back then. Different world.
Yeah, a completely different world.
Yeah.
I joke about, I joke about it sometimes. I'm like, you mean so when they were tearing down the statues of Christopher Columbus, so when Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, decided that racism was a public health emergency in Chicago, and she took down the statue of Christopher Columbus that was in Grant Park, and I was like, it was so stupid and so bizarre, like, because people got offended by an Italian navigator who died 520 years ago. People were offended by a statue of a guy who died 520 years ago, which, and then, of course, after that, they took the lady off the syrup bottle and the man off the rice box, and all of a sudden, racism.
I remember that. That seems so stupid.
The racism came down like 0.2% in Chicago. It was just also fucking stupid. It was. I'm like, I couldn't process it. Back to NASA and Artemis, and what you had just mentioned about, you know, doing these big things, doing this Kennedy-esque thing, doing it because it's not because it's easy, because it's hard. I didn't realize that part of the Artemis thing is we're going to build a permanent base on the moon, and that permanent base is going to be used. It's going to be essential. It's going to be essential for us to get to Mars.
It's NASA, it's SpaceX, it's Blue Origin, and probably many other companies working together too, which is really interesting. So all these, Japan is involved. They're making one of the lunar vehicles with Toyota. It's a lot more international than just NASA. NASA's just spearheading it, which is probably the way it should be.
Yeah, you made a really good point, because Apollo was, you know, a quintessentially American thing that happened during the Cold War with, you know, there was no, you know, collaboration with any other country. It was distinctly and exclusively American. And yes,
I think it's
Japan, Canada, all these other countries are involved with Artemis. It's a true international.
I think that's great. That just feels great. That there's so much collaboration going into it too. I'm excited.
How did the astronauts in Apollo 11 and the 7 times we landed on the moon? By the way, there's a guy in the building. There's a guy who works in the building I work in, and he believes all of this is fake.
A lot of people do.
He literally believes all of it's fake. We never went to the moon.
Have you ever asked him what he feels about the Jews? Because if you think that the moon landing's fake,
well, amazingly, he's not doing any of it. He doesn't believe that you control Hollywood or the United States government.
That's the one that is true, though.
Doesn't believe that the Jews talked Donald Trump into taking out Iran's.
They're crafty, dude. They're crafty, man.
You know,
they're crafty. You know, they can get in there.
My God, I'm so sick of hearing that. The United States of Israel and Donald Trump attacked Iran because Bibi Netanyahu told him to.
A lot of people believe that, dude.
My
Maybe that's something we should
Dave
deep dive
in. Nick Fuentes, Hassan Piker. The horseshoe theory of the far left and the far right is just beyond me now. Like, every time I see something about Hassan Piker, I think of Stalin and Ribbentrop shaking hands. It's Hassan Piker and Nick Fuentes. The Jew-hating conspiracy theorist nuts who defend the most brutal regimes on earth.
Fuck, it really is horseshoe theory, man. It really is horseshoe theory.
So, Scott, how did Neil Armstrong go to the bathroom?
So, it had to have been a bag. I mean, there's no other way to do it than a bag. They didn't have suction toilets.
They have a toilet. I guess they're like, kind of like you sit on it and it like helps suck it out, and then it's in a little private space so that you can like have a little bit of alone time in the bathroom. And they had a couple of technical problems with it, and they fixed that. You're right. It was a plastic bag. It was a plastic bag with an adhesive around it, and you stuck it to your ass. And then you had to take your hands, your fingers, and pinch off your feces into the bag. And when you did that, there was an antibacterial liquid inside the bag that would be be released. Right, you break the inner bag, and so to prevent like gas buildup and odor, etc. And yeah, and then you had to clean yourself after you took this adhesive plastic bag off your ass. And I'm like, God bless Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins and everybody that was in the Apollo program for like living that way. Because come on.
Can I just say that's genius engineering, though? I mean, for the time to have everything built into the bag like that, so your antibacterial solution was in there. That's NASA's just killing it on every level, from rocket boosters to taking a shit. They were just killing it.
And for
60s.
urine, they had like this condom like thing that you put on your. So I guess like there's no way we could have like some British journalist was like, of course he had to do the whole, again with the retroactive moralism. Of course he had to do the whole. Well, it was only white men that went to space back in the day. It was like,
yeah, and that's changed, and the world's a better place for it. What's his point?
Right?
Yeah, it's like let's talk about retarded shit and waste our time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and since there's no way you could put a condom on a woman to collect her urine, I guess we wouldn't have been able to send women on Apollo missions because they would have like had to hold their pee for like 9, 10, 12 days. Right?
That's a good point. There could be like maybe a device, like a turkey baster type of device, you could stick up in there and maybe like get a head start on the piston with some suction, and then you could just like
a NASA engineer back in the day when I was a little boy.
I would have been if I was alive back then.
When I was high on nail polish remover, you should have been working for NASA.
The world would have been a better place. We'd have been so far ahead. It would have been like that show For All Mankind. We'd have been really far ahead.
Of course, you weren't alive back then. Now, I showed this on another recording before, but I've had this since 1970.
Oh, shit. Collector's item. Yeah, that is pretty sick, man.
And it was written by the editors of the Associated Press.
Nice.
Right? And I haven't looked at it in years. Eight days after the Soviets propelled the first human being into space, just one day after the Bay of Pigs ended, the 35th President of the United States wrote this memorandum to the man who would one day be the 36th President of the United States. Memorandum for the Vice President. In accordance with our conversation, I would like for you, as Chairman of the Space Council, to be in charge of making an overall survey of where we stand in space. Do we have a chance of beating the Soviets by putting a laboratory in space, or by a trip around the moon, or by a rocket to land on the moon, or by a rocket to go to the moon and back with a man? Is there any space program which promises dramatic results in which we could win? How much additional would it cost? Are we working 24 hours a day on existing programs? If not, why not? If not, will you make recommendations to me as to how work can be speeded up? In building large boosters, should we put our emphasis on nuclear, chemical, or liquid fuel, or a combination of these three? Are we making maximum effort? Are we achieving necessary results? I have asked Jim Webb, Dr. Weisner, Secretary McNamara, and other responsible officials to cooperate with you fully. I would appreciate a report on this at the earliest possible moment. John F. Kennedy.
That's pretty cool, man.
I haven't read that in many, many years.
Mm.
I keep that so I would record for them.
Do you think this is a callback? Do you think that guy and the video is right? Do you think there's some of that element? It really seems like there is, man. This looks hard as fuck. And do you think Elon Musk is the person that kind of kicked him in the ass?
Oh, I don't think this would be happening without Elon Musk. Do you?
No, none of this is happening without Elon Musk. That's why you can dislike him all you want, but none of this. So the world is so, it would be so different if it wasn't for that guy. It just is what it is. You don't have to like him. You don't have to hate him. You don't have to anything. It just is what it is. It would have never happened. And thank God it did, at least for the space race or whatever this is right now, because China will go there as well. They should. They should try to as well. Competition's great.
Since we're doing it now, and since we're going to put a base up there, and since we're colonizing the moon, and since I just want everybody to know, I want you to be the first one to know that I am going to be putting in when our moon base is up and running, I'm going to put lunar surface of the moon as my land acknowledgement in my bio.
Oh, nice. I thought you were going to say you wanted your ashes to be put up there, and I was going to be like, I am not fucking paying for that. I don't know how you want this to happen. Your ashes are going into the toilet. That Josh and I talked about this. That's the plan. We're going to tell you you're going to do whatever you want, but we're flushing them. But no, the land acknowledgement way better. You absolutely should.
I want you guys to put my ashes in like the NASA toilet from 1969, like a plastic bag with adhesive around it.
Dude, if your ashes could go in like the original, like Neil Armstrong shit bag, I think that'd be a nice way to go.
That'd be great.
Yeah, okay, that's what we're doing. We're going to figure it out. I'll talk to Josh.
Would you go to the moon?
Eventually, yeah.
Would you go? If you had all the qualifications that everybody on this flight has, would you have gone on this flight?
So if I was an astronaut, would I have gone on this flight? Yeah, of course. If I was qualified, and yeah, I would have gone on any of them.
Let me rephrase it. Not if you were an astronaut. If NASA called you and said, we're going to put you through a 6-month program to make you qualify to be on this flight. In other words, to make sure that you're not going to have your brain is not going to hemorrhage because of the G-forces, to make sure you're not going to pass out because of the G-forces, blackout, to make sure that you are physically capable of taking this trip.
So NASA, if they're like, okay, we're going to go through they're just like looking through unsuccessful podcasts on YouTube, and they run across
they're looking in the phone book.
And then they're like, okay, yeah, I would do it. I would absolutely do it. Would you?
I think I would.
You couldn't pass it up. You'd hate yourself if you passed it up.
I think I would hate myself if I passed it up.
Yeah. After that, I ain't doing shit. I'm not working ever again. I'm done.
No, I'm milking that fucking gravy train for all I can get out of it.
Exactly.
Like, there's going to be enough headlines come out of that for me to live off the revenue on TikTok.
Something else when I was just looking up space shit, and I also watched the classic Simpsons episode where Homer goes to space. You remember this?
I've not seen it.
Oh, it's so good. I just James Taylor. NASA gets James Taylor to play guitar for him, and there's a catastrophe up there with a bunch of ants floating around. And Buzz Aldrin, who's one of them, tells James Taylor to stop playing. He's like, "Listen, Buzz, NASA had me come all the way here, so you're going to sit up there, you're going to play, and you're going to like it." And he plays one of his classic songs, whatever it was, for Buzz Aldrin and Homer when they're flying around. It's so good. But anyways,
the only thing in The Simpsons I've seen lately is like every Saturday, some of the people that I pay attention to on social media, put the Ned Flanders meme up where Ned Flanders busts open the door of his kids and he goes, "Time for church." And the kids go, "We're not going to church today." And he's like, "Give me one good reason why not." And they're like, "It's Saturday."
Classic.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know that scene. Yeah. That's classic.
It fucking cracks me up every time. I don't know why. And I never watched the fucking Simpsons.
That's
I
right.
told you, I have never seen an entire episode of The Simpsons.
I forgot. We've discussed this. That's why I don't think you're a real person, or you're perhaps an actual communist.
I've never seen a whole episode of The Simpsons. I've never seen a whole episode of King of the Hill, or any of these like, adult
culture-defining TV shows.
South Park is the only one that I've watched.
Arguably, it could, well, it's not better than The Simpsons, but it's close. So yeah, okay, that's forgivable. One last factoid. Officially, no one's ever had sex in space. I think someone had to have. That's my theory. They snuck away somehow. The temptation will be too great. Be like, hey, look, let's go into the toilet and let's just fucking bust one out real quick. But then again, you might have like how jism might be flying around, and then how are you going to explain that?
Well, remember when Josh said he wouldn't do bukkake? He would in space because it would, because it was like it would just like go out into and like just float around. It would never like.
I think he would do it in space because the odds. So if Josh is in space in a space capsule and there's like 10 or 15 dudes and they're all jacking off on his face, because of the weightlessness, it's not going to get into his face, right?
It's not going to get to him.
It's just going to go, it's going to clog all the instruments and shit, but it's not, so he wouldn't really be bukkakeed on. So whatever side of that arrangement with that deal he would get without the negative parts of him being jizzed on.
To save his son's life.
That was no, it wasn't to save his son's life. It was to cure his cancer so that he would live long enough to see his son graduate. As a matter of fact, I promised him that the next one of those I was going to direct at you. I have an idea, but I'm going to save it for him because I'm a nice guy. But
no, I don't think anybody's had sex in space yet.
You're probably right. That's
now because we're sending. I mean, let's face it. Like the people that we send, like these are like the quintessential officers and gentlemen. Like, right? They're like my father. Like my father, I know people in the military get a bad rap. And, there's like a jillion articles in Mother Jones and New York Magazine and the New Republic about, military guys, back in the day and also now that do a lot of sexual harassment, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm sure those people exist.
Of course there are people in the military. There are people in the law profession and people in dentistry and IT and carpet cleaning and every other profession that there is. Of course, that kind of thing happens. But my father was such an officer and a gentleman. He found out during World War II in China, he found out that he and a couple other officers found out that a guy was having sex with a Chinese woman that he was making do his laundry and stuff for him. They took him out behind, they didn't have barracks in China, they only had tents. They took him out behind a hangar and beat him within an inch of his life. And my father used to love to tell the story about that. When he was teaching me and my brother about manners and being a gentleman at all times and never doing anything to embarrass him and always, protecting other people from bullies and standing up for women, when guys were doing stuff like that, whether it was catcalling, whether it was slapping a girl on the butt, no matter what it was. He was so good. He was such a good man. And he would tell us that story about how they took I think he used to call him Captain Alka-Seltzer because he was, I can't remember why. They took Captain Alka-Seltzer out back and kicked the shit out of him and told him that if he ever laid a hand on that Chinese woman again, that he would disappear or get court-martialed. And the way it turned out, that guy ended up being like one of the best officers for like the next 20 years of his life. Like he was like, this guy was like nothing but ship shape, salute, and what did they call it? He shaped up and flew right.
And that man's name was General Colin Powell. I don't know. Slander. Just picked a random military name. No, that's a great point.
They taught him a lesson that he never forgot.
Yeah. It's amazing what a good ass whooping will do for you.
And they were like, motherfucker, if you ever touch a civilian on this base or anywhere else, anywhere around here, you think this was bad? This is nothing. And that guy ended up being one of the best officers that ever served under my father. Or period.
Amen,
like
dude.
He shaped his ass right up.
The power of an ass whooping. A well-directed, good-meaning ass whooping. Fuck yeah.
We're coming up on 41 minutes, Scott. Do you have any other factoids about technology leaps? My mind is blown that a smartphone has millions of times more computing power than what got us to the moon. And the other thing it reminded me of was like when we were building, we built the Empire State Building, I forget what it was. It was a ridiculously short period of 276 days or something. I'll have to look it up. Hang on. Let's just. How long did it take to build the Empire State Building? All right, I was a bit off. It took 1 year and 45 days.
Still fucking amazing.
Right? And the motherfuckers had nothing but the most technologically advanced instrument they had back then was a slide rule. NASA sent men to the moon using a slide rule and a computer that had less processing power than a Texas Instrument calculator from the 1990s. That blows my fucking mind.
I guess the last factoid I would have then is we're soft. We're softer. We don't want to work as hard. I don't. If I was born earlier and had a harder existence, I would want to work harder than I currently want to work because I'm a product of my environment just like everybody else. Doesn't make us good, doesn't make us bad. It just makes us human. Animals created by evolution and we act accordingly.
That was a really smart thing to say.
And the Jews did 9/11.
And they control the United States government. And all right, the last thing I want to say to everybody online who was hoping that the F-15 weapons officer was not rescued so that it would make Donald Trump look bad, a hearty fuck you to all of you. And there was a whole fucking bunch of them. United States senators were tweeting about, the lost pilot, and it's all because of Donald Trump. And guess what happened after that? After he was rescued, not a fucking word. Not a word. Not a tweet about, gee, I'm glad we rescued him. You know why? Because they didn't want him rescued. They wanted him paraded, and they wanted him captured and paraded down a crowded street by Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces for the Iranian regime to use as propaganda, so the whole thing would make Donald Trump look bad. And if you're one of those people, fuck you, and you're a bad person.
I would say there are few things in this world more evil than manufactured hatred of your fellow countrymen because you're on a different kind of arbitrary political team.
Because you don't like the guy who's sitting in the White House.
Yeah.
Because somebody that you didn't vote for is sitting there, and you want him to look bad, And it turns out that the military operation, the rescue operation that, and I'll send you some stuff you can read about it, was unfucking believable. There were also people online that are like, so apparently we blew up the equipment that was there because we don't want it reverse. We don't want anybody reverse engineering it, right? Mm-hmm. So it cost us a couple of C-130s and some other stuff and a helicopter, and we fucking vaporized that shit. And people were like, all of that equipment just for like one guy. We're like, yeah, we don't fucking leave our guy.
Part of the reason why we're better than the Iranian leadership, because our people aren't throwaway. We're not part of a death cult like extremist political Islam. Fucking people, dude. We
literally threw helicopters off the decks of aircraft carriers in Vietnam so that we could rescue people.
Who said all this for one guy? Because they couldn't go fuck themselves. And anyone that takes that person seriously as something that should be listened to or voted for. I don't know if this is a politician you're talking about.
It wasn't a politician. It was like an influencer.
Yeah. Fuck these people.
What are the influencers?
If you don't take, whether it's fucking us or anybody, don't fucking listen, dude. Like, Jesus Christ.
And of course, so many of these accounts come, like, one of the great things Elon Musk did with Twitter was like, country of origin. And but of course, a lie goes halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its dance on. And people see that and they believe it and they retweet it. And it turns out it's, it takes you like 5 seconds to figure out that it's an account from Pakistan that does nothing but regurgitate Iranian regime propaganda. And some very prominent people in the United States, like Hassan Piker, like Sean, who's Talcum X? What's his name? Sean King?
Oh, I remember that guy. Yeah, right? Talcum X. Yeah, Talcum X. Martin Luther King.
Yeah, people with like millions of followers do that shit, right? With some guys putting up some, like pictures of these craft that we vaporized, after we rescued the F-15 weapons officer, so that none of it could be reverse engineered. And people enlarged the image and said, "There's a skull. This is a burned skull in this aircraft." And the United States, the United States killed its own people to rescue this guy, and the real plan was that they were going to kill him too because blah blah. It's just insane shit, and it's just so man. It's so awful. It's so terrible. And then, but yeah, they have Democratic politicians and so-called progressives, who were actively, and they won't admit it now. Who are actively hoping that this F-15 pilot got captured so they could use it, against Donald Trump. You're a bad person. You're an awful person, and nobody should ever pay any attention to you. You're just, I can't even process it. It makes me physically ill.